people have said that they can see the ghost.
I saw something walk through the wall.
I was petrified.
Right in front of me, a figure appeared.
Britain is said to be the most haunted country on earth. Millions of souls have lived and died here. It appears that some may be reluctant to leave. Fact or fantasy, for some, ghosts are an obsession. This is Robert Snow, a 55-year-old journalist. He's the secretary of the oldest paranormal society in the world, the Ghost Club. Established in 1862, today the Ghost Club has more than 250 members. Each has a fascination with the paranormal. To satisfy this curiosity, they investigate haunted sites all over Britain. Prow Sands is a tiny village in Cornwall. It's home to possibly the most haunted building in Britain, Pengersic Castle. More than 500 years old, the castle's history is tainted with tales of murder, hatred, religious feuds and ritual sacrifice. This evil reputation attracts interest from all over the world. Ronald Kirby is a professional dowser. He's been studying the castle for 15 years. He concentrates on just one room, Pengersic's bedchamber.
We can only work in there for about half an hour at a time, and then we've got to come out for an hour, because the energy that builds up in there, it does make you feel quite unwell sometimes. Track the presence for me.
Using dowsing rods, Ron has tracked the movement of more than 28 presences in this room alone.
Goes over to the bed, and then where my rods cross, she pauses. And she comes over here, pauses again, and looks out of the window.
One presence is stronger than the others, that of a young girl.
I was up here with Alan Neal, who's a friend of mine as well as being a dowsing tutor. He was sitting in that chair and I was sitting in this one, and he had a pad on his knee and he's just sitting there with his eyes closed, and all of a sudden his hand started going mad. There was no rhyme, reason or direction to it. And after a few minutes he just gave a breath and opened his eyes, and this is what had happened.
For Ronald, the energy he senses is real. But would this be the same for non-believers? To find out, we asked 4 people to spend the night at Pengersic Castle with Robert Snow and members of the Ghost Club.
Hiya. Pleased to meet you. Have you ever seen a ghost in here?
Yes.
Have you?
Yeah. Yes, in the past.
Abby is an office manager. Louise, a photographer. Wen Yu is a student. And Mark works in engineering. They have no knowledge of the castle's history and no special interest in ghosts themselves. Tonight, their role is to be impartial observers.
This is going to be fun.
Well, welcome to Pengersic Castle. I understand that most of you haven't been on a paranormal investigation before, and if this is your first time, this is as good as anywhere to start. If this place is probably as good as any place to be called a candidate for the most haunted house in Britain. 95% of hauntings can actually be explained through scientific, or with careful scientific investigation. It's the odd 5% that interests me, and I think that everything that happens in this building is in that odd 5%. I've never been able to explain any of the phenomena that I've actually witnessed here. I haven't told you what has happened here in great detail, otherwise it might influence you. You might start to imagine things. That's not meant to be anything detrimental against you, because it's human nature, it's understandable. But remember, if something frightens you, if you see something that's very unpleasant or unnerves you, remember, it cannot hurt you. You are absolutely safe. Before we proceed, I'd like to introduce 3 colleagues of mine. Natalie Osborne Thomason is a member of the Ghost Club, and she's also a professional writer, and she writes on paranormal. She has a great knowledge on the subject. To her left is Philip Carr, who's the editor of the Ghost Club magazine, and Dennis Moyes, who's an old hand at this. He's been a member since about 1978.
During tonight's vigil, Natalie Thomason's psychic powers will be crucial. She too has no prior knowledge of Pengersic's history and will interpret events with an open mind. Advice she passes on to the newcomers.
Basically, the only advice I can give to you on the Ghost Watchers is to have an open mind at the start and to try and free your mind of all conceptions what's going to happen, and just be open, and you're more likely to experience things.
Has anyone, before we start, has anyone actually any questions they'd like to ask me, or any things they're afraid of or worried about? So, you know, don't be afraid to speak up.
How are you so sure that these ghosts can't hurt you? How do you know?
Well, there's never been a case of a ghost harming anyone at all. They're not material objects.
Do you believe in evil?
Yes, I believe in evil. I mean, I'm not an atheist. I mean, I'm a Christian. I'm not a regular churchgoer, but I believe there's the power of God, which is good, and also there is evil. So I hope you have a very enjoyable night, and you'll find the experience interesting. If nobody's got any more questions, I think what we will do now is start the investigation.
Okay, Robert, what are we going to do now?
We're going into each room.
Yeah.
First, and we're going to place a control object, or trigger object, as it's sometimes called. I'll show you what.
So where are we going to place them?
The first step of the investigation involves the placement of trigger objects. These are vital in determining the presence of supernatural forces.
The idea is that if this moves, you can actually move outside the line. It's a way of telling you if the object actually has moved.
Have you sensed the coldness in here?
Paranormal disturbance is often associated with rapid drops in temperature, so thermometers are carefully positioned and recorded before they begin.
Can you find the torch, please?
With everything ready, the group moves into the castle's bedchamber. It's here they hope to discover if the legend of its haunting is true.
Okay, well, this is the main bedchamber, and in the past this has been the centre of activity. I think we should turn the lights out and have a session sitting in quiet in the dark and see what actually materialises, or what happens. So let's go for it, shall we, and see what happens.
The night before them, they have no idea of what might happen. All they can do is sit and wait. At Pangursic Castle, the Ghost Watch is 90 minutes into its overnight vigil. All is quiet. So Natalie decides to use her psychic power to make contact.
What I'd like to do, if you all will agree, is try and talk to, if there is something in this room, and ask it if it will manifest itself in some way, because sometimes that has an effect. So if everyone's quiet, I'll try and... if there's anything in this room, any kind of spirit, will you manifest yourself in some way, make it colder? Move one of the control objects, make a noise. We want some evidence that you're here. We know you can do it.
Ten minutes later, there is an answer.
I can feel it touching my cheeks, and I've got loads of layers on, and I can feel it around me.
Yeah. I can feel it all in front of us. It's sort of round, cold. It seems to have come in the room from the chimney area.
It's certainly got a lot colder, and there's no doubt about that. It's not imagination.
But you can feel it round us.
Yeah,
It's almost
you can't
like
walk the way
attractive.
round here, yeah, definitely.
It's like this.
Everyone is suddenly feeling colder. But is it registering on the thermometer?
Feel it on the legs.
Yeah.
Here.
Go and have a look at the temperature. It's now 53. So in the space of what? 2-3 minutes, it's dropped 7 degrees.
Can I check?
Yes, come and have a look.
That's quite good, isn't it? That's quite a good
Anyone
job.
else like to have a look? So it was 60. To drop 7 degrees in what, 3 minutes or something is quite considerable. I consider that to be abnormal. It seems to me to indicate the presence of something, for want of better words, paranormal. Some supernatural entity is possibly in this room.
Robert believes a supernatural presence has entered the castle. He decides to check for changes to the control objects.
Check the control object, Abby.
Okay.
See what's happened. That's moved for a start. See, it's moved outside its circle.
Oh wow.
It's rather spectacular. At least that's something that's happened. The temperature's the same. There's something obviously here. It hasn't been moved by any human beings.
In paranormal terms, there have been 2 significant events so far. Whatever is here is about to become more active.
It was a reflection
Definitely,
of something.
because we both saw
It was
it.
a reflection of something, yeah. I think it's...
Reflection. I thought it was my reflection.
But there's no way you could see a reflection
My
of anybody.
reflection, or anyone's reflection in there.
In that, no, you couldn't.
And it was a female face.
Louise and Mark have both seen something in the window.
It was definitely a female face. I know that. With brown hair, and that's why I thought it was my reflection. But now, if you think about it, there's no way that you'd see my reflection in that pane of glass from this distance.
And it can't be anyone outside because of the room is some distance above the ground.
I think it's...
I saw it.
The reflection is a mystery. But could the image they've seen be connected to the girl described by dowser Ronald Kirby? As the night wears on, the sense of a female presence in the bedchamber increases. At 4 a.m., it's strong enough for Natalie to psychically interpret its story.
I had this sort of picture in my mind of a woman on the bed being restrained, and there was a woman who was aborting her baby, and when the baby was born it was killed straight away and chopped up, I think, or cut lots of times with a knife. It was some kind of ritual in a way. I think it was her daughter on the bed, and for some reason the baby had to be killed as part of the ritual.
The murder of a child in the bedchamber is a gruesome theory, but surprisingly accurate, as Robert then revealed.
Well, in the past, the baby was born in this room, and immediately it was born, it was murdered, it was slaughtered. Here in Pengursic, it almost seems that anything could have happened. I mean, it's buildings like this, you could say that this is the sort of stuff that legends are made of.
They've been in the castle 7 hours. For Natalie, the energy is becoming unbearable.
I'm very fond of castles and old buildings, but the whole of this place is just horrible, I think. It just reeks of despair and happiness, and it's affected, since I've been here, it's affected my mood. Since I've been here, I just wanted to leave, but not because I'm scared or anything, but because it's such a dismal place. It's utterly dismal.
The rest of the night passed quietly, but the movement of control objects, temperature drop, and Natalie's accurate interpretation were ample evidence for Robert to declare the Ghost Watch a success. At 6 a.m, the vigil is over.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Even the smallest incidents all add up to something. They all add up to the fact that the building does at times have, shall we say, unseen presences which manifest themselves.
Deliberately inviting contact with the paranormal may seem bizarre, but for some, it's not only a passion, it's a job.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, so we bless.
The Reverend Lionel Fanthorpe is an Anglican priest and a paranormal investigator. For some, this association is unusual, but to Lionel, it's a natural part of his faith.
I feel that our God is the God of a very mysterious universe, and that by accepting the possibility that the paranormal exists, we are paying tribute to God's wonders.
Lionel has been involved in many paranormal investigations. The most disturbing occurred at the Odeon Cinema in Bristol. It's a story that begins more than 50 years ago.
On Monday, the 29th of May, 1946, Parrington Jackson, the cinema manager at the Odeon in Bristol, was murdered in the building. And what happened that night, it was a normal night on all accounts. He was taking tickets at the door. He went up into his office to lock the money away in a safe. And then maybe 2 or 3 minutes later, the waitress brought the manager his tea and found his dead body on the floor of his office.
Parrington Jackson was shot through the temple at close range. Nothing was stolen and no shots were heard. Whoever killed him had disappeared. Looking for a motive, the police discovered that Jackson led a double life.
He was a flirt. He was rumored to have had numerous affairs. Everyone seems to agree that this may have had something to do with his murder.
The police investigation is a failure and the case is closed. But something remained in the cinema. Something that would make its presence felt there for the next 5 decades.
The murder has never been forgotten. Even 50 years later, people still talk about it in Bristol, largely because everyone believes that the Odeon is haunted by his ghost.
I think there's a ghostly presence here. I've seen people sat in the auditoriums that are not there, hearing things. I know there is something here.
People have said that they can see the ghost or hear the ghost. I was coming through a corridor from the main part of the cinema and just saw him through the doorway. Sometimes in Screen 3 especially, when we've gone to chat when everyone's gone, it looks as though there's still someone left. He's normally sitting quite near the front, about 3 rows from the front, so obviously you can only see from the shoulders up. But a normal man, late 40s, late 50s perhaps.
Many staff have had paranormal experiences at the Odeon, but none so bizarre as former usher Andy Mayo.
I'd been an usher for like 3 or 4 weeks and I was getting on really well, and one evening I went into this cinema 3. The lights hadn't been brought down yet, and I was stood at the top of the auditorium here, and I saw this this man, and I instinctively said, "Excuse me, we're not open yet." And before I could say, "Excuse me, we're not open yet," he walked to the end of this room here and walked straight through the wall.
Like his colleagues, Andy had witnessed the apparition of a man in Cinema 3. No one expected what happened next.
A week or so later, one of the other ushers, she was walking down the steps with me towards Screen 3, and I just felt all cold all over, and she had to catch me as I collapsed on the stairs. She grabbed my hands, like you would if you see someone falling, you grab them, don't you? My hands were icy cold.
Frightened and distressed by his sudden collapse, Andy decided to seek help from his manager.
I said, "Look, I saw something walk through the wall. Somebody touched me on the shoulder. I haven't got a wild, vivid imagination when it comes to ghost stories or anything like that, but this is what I felt." And he went, "Yeah, you're not the first."
3 weeks later, he quit his job.
I left the Odeon because I was scared. I couldn't forget what I'd seen and what I'd felt.
But it wasn't over. Bristol University asked Andy to return to the Odeon to make a film about his experiences. He agreed, on the proviso that he'd have protection from paranormal investigators Rosie Malone and the Reverend Lionel Fanthorpe. Together, they'd attempt to psychically cleanse the building.
Yeah, come with me and I'll show you what we've got upstairs for you. Thanks.
Within minutes of arriving, Rosie sensed something unusual.
Oh, it's starting to get really effy up here, isn't it? Yeah. It's like a crackle in the air, is about as best I can describe it. So you know something is here, until you actually get nearer the source of what's causing it. You just feel as if there's something there.
The door was there, yes. So that's where he disappears.
You see where that carpet type of line is there in the fabric?
Yeah. Yes, right.
They began by retracing the steps of the apparition Andy had seen in the cinema. Surprisingly, they find little paranormal energy. So they decide to investigate the area of Andy's first collapse.
Slashed off its heads and then burnt the stumps.
All right, okay. All right.
Down there. I then showed them the back stairs. And it was while we were going down the back stairs that I felt this draft.
Bar this door with sacred power, that no evil can pass it. In the name of the Father, and of the Son,
It's down here.
and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, bless this corridor.
All right, leave it.
All I know was, I don't know if you've ever had a really bad stomach pain like appendicitis. It was really, really painful.
Leave him. You can't have him. You go through me.
It felt like I'd actually been hit in the testicles, and then the pain moved to my stomach. And it felt like I was sort of having real bad convulsions.
Smells good.
Andy had suffered another devastating attack. Who or what had caused it is unknown. Despite the efforts of Lionel and Rosie, Andy's nightmare isn't over. His only option is to try again. The haunting of the Odeon Cinema in Bristol continues. The attempt to cleanse it by paranormal investigators has failed. Although Andy Mayo no longer works at the cinema, he feels he's being followed by the presence he found there.
I was having real bad panic attacks. I wasn't able to sleep. I was exhausted.
Andy's case is extreme. Lionel Fanthorpe believes the solution is to return once more to the cinema and conduct an ancient religious ritual, the exorcism.
If the entity which appears to be causing the disturbance, causing fear, unhappiness, producing negative feelings in a human being who is in that house or in that building, then the function of the exorcism is to bring peace to the disturbed psychic entity. And the role of the priest is to bring love and peace where there has previously been hostility and unhappiness. You're a brave man. Thanks for coming back.
Returning to the Odeon, Andy is nervous.
Shaky.
Yeah. How'd you feel?
This stair area is the scene of his last two attacks.
No, still, come on, let's go on up and see. Let's see what we can see.
Almost immediately, he begins to feel uncomfortable.
Scared, my stomach is really tingling again. My head's cold. The rest of me's getting colder.
Lionel begins with prayers designed to subdue the entities.
No evil thing may pass by it. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Okay.
Malleus Maleficarum.
All right.
This is burning. My hands are burning.
Aegis. Fundamentis Aegis in Montibus Sanctus. Amen.
All right.
This is really freaking me right out.
It's all right.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
All right.
He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He restoreth my soul. And in the prayer of Saint Columba,
He won't be here long now.
touch not thou that man. I command you as a priest of Christ, touch not thou that man. Call upon the angels of power, the ministers of grace, to drive out all that is evil.
And his pain is real. Lionel believes it may be channeled from the past.
If we go back to the original event from which the hauntings seem to have sprung, we have sensations of anger, we have sensations of fear, feelings of pain, and then the awareness of approaching death, which is perhaps one of the most somber fears to which the human mind is open. If then, 50 years after that event, a young man who is hypersensitive is in the vicinity of that cauldron of negative emotion, then he or she may well re-experience both the fear and the pain.
Yeah, you will.
As they move deeper into the building, Andy's discomfort is becoming more intense. He must now help Lionel in his final attempt to exorcise the spirit.
He's going to attack you.
You have to fight them yourself with your will. But your problem is your sensitivity. Just repeat after me. With the help of God.
The help of God.
I have the strength.
I have the strength.
To repel these evil forces.
Evil forces.
And with the strength of Christ.
And with the strength of Christ.
I command them.
I command them.
To leave me alone.
To leave me alone.
Now and forever.
Forever.
Amen.
Amen.
Bless you, my son. Receive the power of Christ. Stand and fight. You can fight them, Andy. You're a man. You're a strong man in mind and body. My prayer protects you. The love of God protects you. All evil must flee from you. I command it in the name of Christ the unconquerable to leave you alone.
All right, okay.
Got him?
This is too weird. This is too weird.
Has he left?
I still feel the same.
Yeah, no, but did you feel him leave?
I don't know what I felt.
Lionel and Rosie haven't completed the exorcism, but Andy is now overwhelmed.
It feels much better here, actually.
It does.
Yeah. How do you feel?
No, I'm
He
not.
decides he's had enough.
Yeah,
Okay.
fine.
This is too freaky.
Yeah, okay, well, we fully respect that, of course. You've done a great job. You've shown great courage by being here.
Thank you for coming, Andy.
God bless you and protect you. Have no fear.
Today was one of the scariest experiences I've ever had. When we went down to the back stairs, when Lionel and Rosie were seeing if they could detect anything, and next thing I know, I'd fainted. Before I lost consciousness, I knew that somebody was around me, and then when I regained consciousness fully, I started to get really scared, and that's when I'm afraid I had to just get out of there. It was just too freaky, really scary.
Since the exorcism, Andy's had no more attacks, but the haunting has profoundly changed him.
Before this experience, I didn't believe in ghosts. Being a Christian, I believed in the Holy Spirit, the Holy Ghost, and that's it. And yeah, it has changed me considerably. My opinion of other people who have claimed to see things has changed, because I used to think like everyone else, yeah, right. Now I do believe, you know.
But what was the energy that attacked Andy? And what is a ghost? Lionel Fanthorpe believes they take many forms.
I think as an investigator of the paranormal, I would come up with 4 possible solutions. The first is that a ghost is, in the traditional sense, the spirit of a departed human being. The second explanation is that when we think we're seeing or hearing ghosts, what we're really aware of is a replay of something which took place many years ago. The third explanation is that there is some kind of malfunction within the mind. The fourth explanation would be that there are entities other than human spirits, things that we might call devas or jinn or elementals, and that when we come into contact with them, for want of a better word, we call them ghosts.
These 3 people are on their way to investigate a haunting. On call 24 hours a day, they are members of Britain's mobile ghost squad, Phoenix Paranormal Investigators.
The aim of Phoenix is to investigate paranormal activity and related strange events for the general public, and hopefully try to shed some light onto what is actually going on.
Based in Stockport, Phoenix travel all over the country, answering calls from those distressed by paranormal activity.
A lot of people call Phoenix when they have nowhere else to turn.
Tonight, they've been called in by staff at the Eagle and Child pub in Lancashire.
What sort of activity have you witnessed and experienced here?
Seeing glasses fly off the shelves, not knocks off the shelf.
Other staff have seen apparitions of a man, but the movement of glasses appears to be the phenomenon most often witnessed.
The photo frame went, and again, the photo frame and lots of bottles flew off the shelf.
Deciding there's enough evidence to conduct an investigation, the team get to work recording the area on camera. They're the best equipped paranormal squad in the country.
During investigations, we use a varied range of equipment. Infrared night vision, the thermal scanner, camera equipment of all sorts, voice-activated tape recorder. This is our digital camera, passive infrared detectors, stroboscopic light,
They begin by using the digital camera to detect manifestations of energy called orbs. These strange phenomena are considered an early indicator of paranormal energy.
My interpretation of an orb is almost the coming together of different energy forming into a material object. Spirit energy focuses itself to a point where it's becoming physical, so therefore it becomes light first. These spheres of light can then come together themselves and form more spheres of light, and that will then manifest into a figure. Sometimes figures are opaque, there's not that much energy with them. Sometimes they can be very strong, they can be solid as I'm sitting here.
Scientifically, Jeff's claims are debatable, but in the past, Phoenix have captured what they consider to be spectacular examples of orbs, including video evidence of a moving orb filmed on an infrared camera. At the Eagle and Child, Jackie thinks she's found something.
I'm just taking a picture over in this corner. Above the ceiling above there is actually an orb of energy. It's situated just by the beam.
Continuing the search for paranormal energy, Scott moves upstairs where he finds a room 15 degrees colder than the rest of the building.
24.
The room also has a strong effect on Jeff.
No heat. Right. But the wall, how thick would you say the wall is?
Considering the light then,
Is it 2-3 foot?
Yeah.
Because I get the impression that there's something buried in it. The room got a feeling as though, funnily enough, there's a body buried in the wall.
Phoenix are only an hour into their investigation, but psychics Jeff and Jackie have already compiled useful information.
I think everybody's picking up on something, even yourselves, because there is a lot of energy around this building.
I told you what I had, a small boy. The small boy is still following me around. Where's little flat cat? I've got children in hard labour, and there's definitely been a fire of some description. It's not enough to destroy the property. A family, definitely a mother and a son, have died through burning. Be better without the light on them.
Yeah.
Based on their initial findings, Scott and his team believe the greatest source of paranormal energy is coming from the basement. The best way to find it is with the lights out.
Try the other one.
I think whatever it is playing hide and seek with us down here. There's something in here. It's actually getting it.
The energy they hoped to find has not yet appeared. Moving into a room alone, Jackie and Jeff decide to try and reach it using psychic meditation. 30 minutes later, Jackie emerges.
Freezing.
Freezing.
Very, very cold over there.
Has Jeff come out of it yet?
No. I don't know what happened, but something did. Still freezing. Temperature dropped a good few degrees. I felt like my breath was visible, but the atmosphere surrounding altered. I channeled. I don't know who I channeled, but I channeled somebody.
The investigation is complete. Though nothing substantial, Scott believes they've found enough evidence to confirm the existence of paranormal activity.
You're not going mad. Your staff aren't going mad. There is definitely something unexplained going on here. And hopefully, if you'll allow us to come back, we will do a follow-up investigation at some point in time.
It's another success, but it's not always this easy. For Phoenix, one past investigation stands out from the rest. In 1999, Phoenix paranormal investigators experienced the most powerful haunting they've ever encountered at Brannigan's Pub in central Manchester. Like the Eagle and Child, it began with reports of smashing glasses.
We were told that they were experiencing optics moving, bottles smashing. People, when they were locking up the area, they had the feeling that they weren't on their own, that they were being followed.
For several months, there'd been complaints of glasses moving around so violently that staff felt they were in danger of being injured.
It was about 5 o'clock and I'd come out the glass wash area with the manager because we'd had a leak. As he came out the room, I was behind him. He walked off and the 3 glasses flew right across the bar and smashed on the other side.
Arriving at the pub, the Phoenix team immediately run into problems.
We were told that the bar area and also the DJ box had unusual things happening, temperature drops, strange noises coming from the bar area. But we couldn't investigate those places purely for the fact that there was such a large amount of people still in the property.
Deciding to look around while they wait, the team goes upstairs. They're shocked by what they find. Above the bar at Brannigan's is a 100-year-old derelict church, previously used by 1,200 teetotal Methodists.
It was amazing. It was a big, large building. It still had the original organ, still sat there covered in dust. It was very, very atmospheric.
Feeling this has something to do with the disturbances downstairs, the team decide to investigate. It doesn't take long to find what they're looking for.
When I walked into the church, I was absolutely petrified. It was like being confronted by 1,000 voices talking to you at once. It was in excess of several hundred energies that were all keying in and wanting to talk to you.
They continue to move deeper into the church. Whoever or whatever they had unearthed was getting stronger.
I was in the staircase area, walking back into the main hall, and there was a door on the right-hand side, and as I was walking past the door, I didn't have a clue what was coming. Physically, it felt like I'd been severely beaten. Just a hell of a... like somebody had got a baseball bat and whacked me in the stomach. It was that painful.
Working alone, Jeff discovers another energy. This one is different.
Moving around the main hall, there was lots of different feelings. Sadness, grief, an overwhelming feeling as well of upset children. A fear of the place they were in, a fear of the people that they were around. This wasn't just a recorded energy. This wasn't just something that had impregnated into the building. This was carrying active, sentient, conscious entities. People that could interact with us on a physical plane.
Surrounded by extreme paranormal energy, Phoenix believe it's possibly connected to the original congregations. Whatever it is, they'd never seen anything like it before.
In my opinion, the Brannigans' investigation was probably the most intense. There was that much going on in so many different ways. Jackie was attacked. Jackie was scratched, Jackie was punched. Yes, we've had various grades of activity go on, but never all in the same building, all going on at the same time.
Although the investigation left Jackie emotionally exhausted and physically injured, she still feels it was worthwhile.
It was excitement. I wanted to prove to myself what was there. But it was also very daunting, especially when you were getting physically hurt.
But that's part of the investigation. That's part of the fun.
But were these experiences real? Do ghosts only exist in the imagination? There's no doubt that evidence is easy to fake, but one incident at a riding school in Kent challenges even the staunchest skeptic. On a Saturday morning, Janet Emmett and her daughter are taking their regular riding lesson. The lesson is being filmed by Janet's husband, Martin. Later that night, she decides to watch it.
I was watching the video quite carefully, and at first I was watching myself, obviously, thinking how appalling I looked. Then I saw something quite strange.
Standing in the background is the figure of a man.
I knew that there couldn't have been anybody there. I was riding in the Sand Menage, literally a couple of metres away from where the figure appeared to be standing, and I knew there had been nobody there at the time.
Could this be a trick of light? On closer examination, the figure can be seen again. This time, it appears to have its back to the camera. Is this a ghost? Many have viewed this bizarre tape. No one has been able to explain it. Whatever the truth, proving the existence of ghosts may not be possible. But one thing seems certain: hauntings will continue. For some, the search to solve the mysteries that surround them must never end.
It is the open mind which is prepared to investigate the unknown, the unlikely, even the seemingly impossible, that makes real progress. It is when we dig where no one has dug before us that we may find the treasure which has eluded all the other seekers.